Patty Quincy. I work for the Teachers Union, AFT. Progress Texas gives me hope in a sometimes dreary, dark land that is Texas politics. I would say this is not a moment, this is a movement. And a movement is people moving every single day.
It's Wednesday, January 28th, 2026, and this is the Progress Texas Daily Dispatch, rapid response on the breaking news stories Texas progressives need to know. I'm Chris Mosier. A national popular movement against the murderous tactics of Donald Trump's ICE continues to set the tone of the news across Texas this morning, starting with 5-year-old Liam Conejo Ramos and his father, snatched in Minneapolis a little over a week ago now and hustled to that increasingly notorious ICE detention facility south of San Antonio at Dilley, Texas. KTSP TV in Minneapolis says U.S. District Judge Fred Beery has ordered the federal government to keep Liam and his dad within the jurisdiction of the Western District of Texas while their legal case plays out, and not to deport them until such time that such a move can be legally justified. Immigration attorneys are defending dad and son, holding that Liam's father has no criminal record, entered the country legally, and declared his intent to seek asylum at the border. As we mentioned yesterday, Texas U.S. Reps Jasmine Crockett and Joaquin Castro are set to inspect the Dilley detention facility today. And more broadly on that topic, Minnesota Public Radio is reporting on what they're calling an ICE conveyor belt, a system designed to rush detained children out of that state and into Texas faster than the courts can respond, detailing cases like Liam's in which kids as young as 2 years old are being flown away from their homes within hours of being grabbed by masked federal troopers, in some cases in spite of court orders to release them. Another immigration attorney describing this hasty interstate transfer plan as an effort to avoid dealing with accountability from the federal court system. We're also learning of the Flores Settlement, which is a 1997 court-ordered agreement that sets national standards for the treatment, detention, and release of immigrant children in federal custody, requiring kids to be released from immigration detention without unnecessary delay to a parent, legal guardian, or adult relative, and compels detention facilities to provide safe and sanitary conditions. Both of those terms appear to have been repeatedly and systematically violated by ICE and the Department of Homeland Security. Sandra Sanchez at Border Report says dozens of Texas Democratic lawmakers have sent a letter to DHS boss Kristi Noem demanding the release of a Palestinian woman who's been detained since March in an ICE lockup in Alvarado, Texas. 3 state senators and 31 state reps expressed grave concerns over the confinement of Laca Cordia, 33, at the Prairie Land Detention Center, writing that she's, quote, a longtime U.S. resident from New Jersey, targeted for her constitutionally protected political speech, and confined at the Texas Civil Immigration Jail for nearly 10 months, despite 2 immigration court orders to release her on bond. We demand her immediate release, unquote. Same pattern here. Cordia was detained after showing up to a scheduled meeting with immigration officials in New Jersey and is believed to have been targeted for speaking out on behalf of hundreds of her own relatives who have died in the conflict in Gaza. A heartbreaking story out of Arlington. Sarah Bahari at the Dallas Morning News writes about 30-year-old Wael Tarabishi, who died late last week of a rare disease in the midst of his father's incarceration at the hands of ICE since last October. The family's efforts for Wael's father's release now shift to a plea for him to be allowed to attend his son's funeral. Again here, the father, Maher Tarabishi, was detained after showing up to a routine immigration check-in on his asylum application. No criminal convictions. So many lives and families disrupted and destroyed. In Houston, a crowd of fired-up locals demanding ICE out of their city descended upon a Houston City Council meeting on Tuesday night, says Luke Jones at KTRK-TV. Anger and frustration from speaker after speaker as Mayor John Whitmire remains silent on any change to ICE policy in Houston. He's taken a lot of heat for what many see as rolling over for Donald Trump and Governor Abbott. Congressman Mark Veazey of Dallas has taken to the pages of the Dallas Morning News to decry the return to federal duty of James Rodden, the ICE prosecutor. The Texas Observer and investigative journalist Stephen Monticelli discovered last year runs a white supremacist, racist, and neo-Nazi Twitter account. In his op-ed, Congressman Veazey calls the quiet reinstating of this man to this job in Dallas, quote, an obscenity. In his federal role, Rodden is entrusted with decisions that determine whether families are torn apart, whether asylum seekers are returned to danger, whether people are allowed to stay in the country they call home. We can disagree about immigration policy. We can debate enforcement, border security, and asylum law, but there is no legitimate debate over whether a suspected fascist and neo-Nazi is fit to represent our country in a courtroom. Anyone who thinks otherwise has forfeited any claim to moral authority," unquote, and agreed. A Dallas coffee chain is in an uncomfortable spotlight after over a dozen of their employees have quit over what they say is too warm a welcome for ICE agents in their stores. Axios Dallas says White Rhino Coffee's decision to offer ICE agents a first responder discount, a courtesy commonly extended to local police officers, EMTs, and firefighters. Margot Stacy resigned from her manager's role at White Rhino's downtown Dallas location last week. She tells Axios she doesn't think the company has done enough to protect its employees and customers from ICE in a location she says is frequented by them. When she tried to roll back this discount, she was overruled by the chain's ownership, and so she quit. White Rhino's website says they have 15 locations around the Metroplex. Their owners also operate Emporium Pies. And continued local resistance against that massive new ICE detention facility being developed in Hutchins, Texas, little town on the southeast corner of DFW. Emma Ruby at the Dallas Observer says faith leaders from across the Metroplex gathered late last week in an event organized by the Clergy League for Emergency Action and Response, or CLEAR, an immigrant community support group that's been holding vigils outside the Dallas ICE field office every Monday morning for months now. At that gathering, the Reverend Eric Folkerth, lead pastor at Kessler Park United Methodist Church, called opposition to ICE a moral imperative. Quote, "Over the months, we have seen a disturbingly harsh treatment of migrants. There are people in the city of Hutchins who are very concerned about this. Please give them support and courage at this moment. There are hopefully some legal things they can do to help slow down this human warehouse," unquote. In two parts of Texas, it's time to vote. Early voting is continuing for an extra couple of days in Houston's Congressional District 18. Polls will be open today and tomorrow there in Houston, and also in Tarrant County's State Senate District 9, where early voting has concluded as of yesterday. Election day in both is coming up on Saturday, January 31st. In Houston's CD18, which has gone, as you know, without representation in the U.S. House since the death of Congressman Sylvester Turner back in March of 2025. Voters face a choice between Democrats Amanda Edwards and Christian Menifee. In Tarrant County, veteran union leader and Democrat Taylor Ramett faces MAGA darling Lee Wamsgans to fill a vacant state Senate seat held for decades by Republicans. A major flip opportunity here. Philip Jankowski at the Dallas Morning News says the GOP is on high alert for a loss here, with Dan Patrick warning of a national wave of funding for Democrats should the supposedly safe GOP seat flip blue. As of Monday, about 37,500 ballots had been cast. That's less than 7% of eligible voters in the district. Bad weather being trotted out as an excuse for dismal turnout here, but we know you can do better than that this weekend in Tarrant County and in Houston as well. Election day for both of these special elections, again, is Saturday, January 31st. Special election runoff, midterm year, bad weather, all adds up again to low turnout. That means your vote counts huge. Make sure and get your vote in this week. For the rest of us, the March primary looms as well. Now's the time to confirm your registration. The deadline for that is coming up Monday, February 2nd, just days away. And early voting in the primary starts on February 17th. See the show notes for a Texas 2026 March primary ballot form you can use from the Texas Tribune to find out who will be on the ballot in the primary in which you choose to vote. Everything you need to be sure your registration is good to go can be found at govotexas.org. By the way, if you're planning to vote by mail, once again, USPS says they may not postmark a piece of mail on the same day it's dropped off to them, so the later you wait to send in your ballot, the more likely it is to be rejected. If you're voting by mail, get that done as soon as possible. Our mission at Progress Texas is to improve and save Texans' lives by acting on our shared, bold, progressive values. And that starts with countering the billionaire and corporate-funded disinformation machine. While we enjoy the support of hundreds of partners, chances are that you, dear listener, haven't joined the team yet. If you're a regular, let's get you on board right now, like Michael Springer, Cheryl Lassiter, and Annie Wilson-Wetmore all have. All monthly donors, all of whom we appreciate very much. Join them and the team at ProgressTexas.org. We've joined the lineup of the legendary KPFT radio in Houston and are now reaching voters in Texas's largest and most diverse city. With your support, we hope to replicate this effort beyond Houston to the top 5 Texas media markets this year. Hit the link in the show notes to make your tax-deductible donation to help us reach new audiences via Texas Radio. That's the Progress Texas Daily Dispatch for this Wednesday, January 28th, 2026. Links to all these original stories can be found in our show notes. Progress Texas is an independent nonprofit rapid response media organization. While campaigns come and go, we're the permanent home for progressive media in action in the Lone Star State. I'm Chris Mosier. Thanks so much for listening. Have a great day. We'll see you again tomorrow morning.